one of the things that was standing out in that exercise was the element of surprise that you introduced. And when you gave us scenarios, whether it was economics, whether it was political or military, the pace of change, we were scrapping our strategy almost every 5 minutes, because you would change the scenario and you would introduce an element that you wouldn't have thought about. And that's what that was something that made most of us uncomfortable, probably except for the guys who were had some kind of a were from the armed forces. But this is not something we are used to. We like linearity, we like time frame, whereas you were disturbing that, including waking us up at midnight, and honestly we didn't like you much for that. So, but I observed that this is something we lack the agility of thinking in, right? And that is why we get we don't like surprises, or we don't like the pace of it, we don't like the frequency of it coming in. So I wanted to understand, is there something different that whether it's your training in NDA or yourself in NDC, is it that it is inculcated in the armed forces in a different way, or to be more prepared for it? Like you said, your enemy is also trying to inflict the same kind of a damage on you. So I wanted to understand more about that, because that has left an impression in my mind, that it's something that our B schools in the corporate world do not prepare for. So this is something we don't expect, and it makes us very uncomfortable. So that's where I wanted to ask you, how is it that your thinking is so natural and so easy? Because that day at 2 o'clock in the morning, you were the coolest person sitting in that room where all of us came rubbing our eyes, waking up. So, so
No,
that's something I wanted to.
maybe it is because I get up normally every day at 3 o'clock. That is why the reasons probably 2 o'clock is
Okay.
making a difference. But I think you raised a very important question. You see, what the military does is it believes in doing a lot of contingency planning. It's what it's called. That
Yes.
means it visualizes scenarios which are likely to happen, very well knowing that there are also a lot of scenarios which we can't visualize because of the complexity of the battle space itself. But at least if you are the maximum contingencies that you're mentally prepared for. I mean, now this, remember, has got two complements. One is the complement of the commander, who's the guy who's surprised because he's not prepared for it. The other one is the people down below who need to be told what to do in a particular set of circumstances. The more difficult thing is you will be able to visualize contingencies for what these guys are supposed to do down below. That is not very, because you know the type of content. More is about the chap who's on top and who's suddenly surprised because he's got something in his mind and he has to react to something which he has not planned for, which is not in his mind. And that is why one of the things which we say is to train people under pressure, because one of the things is you can't, how does militaries train, because there's no bloody wars going. But all conditions in which we're supposed to function is supposed to be when the shit is falling all over the place. So we make in peacetime, we put them into conditions where people are under tremendous pressure mentally. That, although this is not real life, this is already imagined situations, we just pose the situation. But the fact is, there is a tremendous amount of pressure. And one of the things which we know about pressure is when people do not have sleep. One of the things that militaries have to be prepared for is functioning without sleep when things are really going bad. That's something we do not know the exact contingency, but we know this is the ambience in which decision making has to be done. So we prepare through our various exercises, and what I brought into Amrut is that the if you don't have sleep and you are surprised, the two things in common. You're surprised and you don't have sleep. Make a diabolical combination, because the fact is that you really don't know what to do, because you're not mentally there, because you're tired, you haven't had proper sleep, and then you confronted with a situation you don't know nothing about. That's why the first thing they say is, when you are confronted with a situation like that, first thing you do is go take a leak.
Sure, we did.
That, see, I think one of the lessons which for you guys from the pandemic is, don't think that this is the sort of surprise which will finish off after 1 year or 1.5. Surprise must be your constant, because the type of changes which is taking place in the world today is at a pace which is not seen before.